All right, welcome everybody. It is time for our next session here. This is Max Fritz here today to talk to you about Teams and Power Platform. We are in the final stretch of the Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon. Happy to have you here for our final session. After this, there will be a closing session and a SharePoint happy hour and all sorts of amazing stuff. Excuse me. We're going to go through and talk about Teams and Power Platform and how these can be integrated together and all the awesome stuff. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started, though. If this is your first session for today's virtual marathons, some of this might be new. Otherwise, just some reminders for you. We're getting together virtually because the SharePoint conference isn't happening this year because we couldn't get together in person. But the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference, which is the successor to the SharePoint conference, it's going to be happening next year in person in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the US. We want to see you there. Please check out the website. Hopefully things are back to quasi-normal by then. Little shout out to our sponsors that helped make this amazing virtual conference happen today and yesterday. Please check them out. Let's get started together. So a little bit about me. Who's talking to you today? My name is Max Fritz. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota in the US. I work at Microsoft as a Teams technical specialist in the healthcare industry, helping out hospitals, clinics, medical device manufacturers, insurance companies, pharmaceuticals, everybody that has anything to do with healthcare. But I love you no matter what industry you're in. So let's get to some cool stuff today. I've been a part of this Office 365 community, speaking at events like this, consulting, working with Microsoft for over 9 years, really deep in this Office 365 space. Really what we want to talk to you about today, though, is solutioning with Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams, for those who haven't spent any time with it, you're in it right now, but it's a fantastic platform. It's obviously got chats, it's got meetings, it's got calls, it's got files, it's got work, it's got all sorts of things in it. But what if we want to customize something about it? I'm not talking about changing the colors. I'm talking about how do we really tweak and build our own solutions for it. Yeah, there's an app gallery with like 500 applications in that like kind of quasi app store right now. But what if I want to do something myself? What if I want to put together something that solves a real business need that I have? Well, that's where our low code Power Platform comes into play. Things like PowerApps, Power Automate, formerly known as Microsoft Flow, PowerBI, Power Virtual Agents, Power. That's where all of that stuff can come into play. And integrating that with Teams makes it the most powerful application you could imagine. And because it's a part of Office 365, those integrations are just super easy for us to put together. So let's take a look at how some of that works. We don't need to worry about all this. You've seen Teams before, right? What we're really interested in is putting your business applications in there. So again, the things that we're going to look at are how do we bring in PowerApps, low code, no code applications, Power BI, which is our visual dashboards of all sorts of data, whether it's data sources in Microsoft, data sources in your data center, on the internet, wherever it might be, and Power Automate, these awesome workflows that can do pretty much anything we want them to. First of all, why are we going to do this? Well, number one, we want to limit, but we don't want to limit our time that we're spending creating and innovating. Routine tasks are the bane of everybody's existence. Even 20% of what your CEOs are doing could be automated today. Maybe you're a CEO here. I mean, no offense. Now there is the other side of this that I always joke about that, I'm the guy who will spend 6 hours automating something that could have taken me 6 minutes, but it's fun, isn't it? So we want to find ways to automate things, way to save times. But we also, on the other hand, want to find ways to avoid switching tasks. So every time you have an interruption in your productivity, it takes 23 minutes, according to a McKinsey study, that one's actually UC Irvine study in the US. It takes 23 minutes to regain your full productivity. I'm not saying if somebody interrupts me right now and walks in my office, it's going to take 23 minutes for me to get back on task to presenting to you guys today. But on average, the amount of time wasted with interruptions is really huge. And when we think about the fact that workers on average switch tasks every 3 minutes, that's a lot of wasted time. It's not every 3 minutes, 23 minutes, that'd be ridiculous. But you start to look at the whole picture and we're losing time throughout our day by this mental switching. So how can we bring these things into a one app context to really bring our meetings, our chat and collaboration, as well as our business applications together? So imagine a world, if you will, where you can integrate your business applications, LOB apps, automate your routine tasks, access the apps you already love, communicate and collaborate, all in a single hub. You guessed it, it's Microsoft Teams. So I'm not here today for a marketing pitch. I actually want to build some stuff with you guys. And I promise we're going to get to that. So what are we going to be looking at? Well, we have Microsoft Teams. We have our productivity apps. Those are all cool and great. There are tons of other sessions that have happened this week going through those, and I really want you to check those out. But we're going to be looking at our processes and custom apps. How do we build things for our departments, our employees, our processes and workflows? And all of that is going to be built using the Power Platform. That is our integrated app, process automation, and business intelligence, all wrapped into one nice little wrapper of Microsoft Teams. So with Teams being our single location for calling content collab apps, Power BI being our seamless connection to our data, able to visualize and make decisions, PowerApps allowing us to build apps on the fly, and Power Automate being our one-stop workflow location to improve all of our daily tasks. Now, the stuff I'm going to show you today isn't stuff that, some marketing person at Microsoft told me, show these people at the Microsoft 365 virtual conference. This is stuff that I've worked on with customers over the past 6-12 months that have really changed how things are working. Some of these I'm going to build with you live because I think it's really cool to see how the cake gets made. But some stuff I'm going to show you because it's taken weeks and days to develop of these complex built-out solutions. In PowerApps, we're going to be talking about how do we build these applications for mobile first and for use within Teams, embedding it within the full Teams interface, using it within a channel and as, excuse me, the dog running around here, and yourself within Teams as a pinned app on the left-hand side, how that you can share the apps and connect them to business data. So what does customizing Teams with PowerApps actually look like? Well, let's take a quick look together. In this quick demo here, I'm going to click around and we're going to go to apps. We're going to upload a custom app and we're going to upload it for our organization. Here, we're going to take a Power App that's already been zipped off for us, exported into a custom file. We're going to add it and we're immediately going to be able to access our app context within Teams on this left-hand banner on the side. Easy for us to do as a single individual or as an admin for the whole organization. I promise we'll show this in real life in just a moment. That's just the same thing we just saw. Let's move on here. You know what? Let's actually show you guys. Well, let's before we dive deep in, I do want to talk about the administrative interface because I imagine some of you are administrators here. So what we're looking at here is the admin center for our Teams applications. And do know you have permission policies to A, decide which one of your tenant apps, which are your Power Apps and anything else custom you've uploaded, can be used by individual groups of users based on our permission policies in Teams apps, and who can upload custom apps. You can also highlight tools that your organization should use by pinning them to the left-hand side or ahead of time for the users so that that left-hand rail that we call it, where you see your activity and your chat and your meetings and your calls, can actually include additional applications, whether they're custom apps or third-party apps or first-party apps. And then, of course, note from an administrator side, you've got your full security and compliance backing all of this. So let's show some of the awesome stuff that we can do here together. We've got an amazing 40 minutes together to actually start building. I'm going to exit my slideshow and start to show you some of the cool stuff that we can do in PowerApps. And I'm going to start with a real basic scenario. We're going to go ahead in my custom tenant here. And I'm going to click on the waffle icon. And I'll click on Office 365 so we can see more of my applications. Expand it a little bit further. And there's our PowerApps. Now there's a few different levels of licensing of PowerApps and Flow and PowerBI and things like that. And I'll point out when I'm doing something that's a little beyond what you might have included in your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 licensing. But there are all sorts of things you can do that's included that will get you going. Now note, there's some learning that's included in PowerApps available for you at learn.microsoft.com. If you click one of these, it's going to help you with getting started and learning all about how to use PowerApps. It's a really, really cool hands-on learning experience for you to, at your own pace, build things yourself. We're going to close that up though, because we're going to do it live together. Now I'm going to click on make my own app, and I'm going to look at our templates here. There's a lot of cool PowerApps templates that have already been built in for you. There's one about training, capturing meeting notes, help desk app, site inspection. I don't need to read them all for you, but you scroll down, there's so many cool app templates built into here. You want to start using them? Well, you can do that pretty much right away. Let's look at the meeting capture one, because what better to make Teams more effective than starting to be able to capture even more information about our meetings. So I'm going to click this meeting capture application here. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it meeting capture. Make it nice and easy, and it's going to tell me ahead of time, okay, so we need to connect to our user database, OneNote, Planner, and okay, Outlook. That's no big deal for me. I'm going to hit create. Now, PowerApps is this awesome web-based interface where you can do anything you want to. I call it, I say, if you know how to build a PowerPoint slide and you know how to do an Excel formula, you'll be right at home with PowerApps. Everything's going to start making sense to you. Yes, there's some super advanced stuff you can do if you were in Christina's last session and all the other sessions throughout the past marathon. There's super advanced stuff, but if you just want to get started, these templates are a great way to do that. So I'm going to click allow to allow it to access all of these different services within my organization, because each service is separate and we need to maintain that privacy. And it'll load up the Power App for us. Okay, so first things first, let's see what the Power App looks like. I'm going to hit play and I want to see what this is like. Okay, so it's going to give me a selection of meetings that I can capture, and then it's going to let me start meetings and all sorts of interesting stuff like that. That's interesting. This is exactly what I want, though. It's going to bring me across different screens and different things like that. Well, let's learn together here. So I'm going to do a simple little Bing search for the meeting capture. And it's going to bring me to the docs.microsoft.com article. Of course, you can use Google too. And it's going to talk to me about what this is like. First of all, I can click a preview meeting capture button, which is going to show me what it should look like. Oh no, is it? Well, we've got a small issue with that, but that's okay. It's going to show how the app works and what we need to do to get it started. Let's see here. We need to be able to export content from PowerApps to OneNote, find available meeting times for people. Let's see, how do we run the app from start to finish? Let's not do a YouTube video today. That's not going to be helpful for us. You guys won't be able to hear the sound. You're going to see me watch a video. That's no fun. But let's open this back up. Let's see our meeting capture. And it should eventually show me meetings that I need to capture. You know what? Why it's not showing me anything is because I don't have anything on my calendar. We can actually see if we highlight this gallery here, it's going to look at our meetings to see what's available for us to capture. So you know what? I'm going to trust that this app is built great and I like it as is. So let's close it out. And let's do a couple things here. I didn't save it, did I? We're going to reopen that meeting capture canvas app. We're going to recreate it. And this time we're going to save it. This is when I should have the background music behind me. I should mention while we're waiting on loading screens and stuff like this. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. I'm looking at it. We got a few moderators that are helping me out as well. I will answer your questions as soon as I possibly can, but that's the best way to ask me questions throughout. And if there's something that you're interested in seeing specifically today, shout that out too, because you know what? This is your time and we want to spend it wisely. Again, we're going to allow, it's going to get things ready. This time, we're going to be smarter. We're going to save it to the cloud. We want to save to the cloud, not the computer, because that's obviously going to help us get access to this in the different areas of the cloud in Microsoft Teams. Back on that settings pane, you can see that we've got icons and stuff like that. That's going to be crucial for how this appears in Microsoft Teams. But let's focus on the Teams part of this. So I saved it already. Next thing I need to do is give people access to it. So I need to hit share. It's going to open us a new web page here. And you know what? I want this to be available to everyone in my organization. I don't want to send an email to everybody though, so I'll uncheck that and I'll click share. Now, let's get this into Teams. How do we add this into Teams? Well, there's this wonderful button called Add to Teams. Today, when I click this, it's going to give me a download app button. But at the Microsoft Build Conference, which is our amazing developer conference last week, we previewed a new capability where it will actually just literally bring this straight into Teams for us. But let's show you how you can do it today. So I click Download App, and it's going to download a zip file. Now, don't go export that. Don't go and decompress that zip file. We don't want to do that. It's like that for a reason. What instead I want to do is in Microsoft Teams, I'm going to go to my apps and I'm going to upload a custom app. Now, this is going to upload it just from me. If I'm an administrator, it'll give me an option to upload it for everybody. If you don't see this button, that's because you're not an administrator, and your administrator may have disabled this, and do get in touch with them. But you can always get an Office 365 developer tenant, because this is developer work, and test it yourself. But I'm going to click Upload a Custom App. Again, it says for me or for the whole organization, Contoso in this situation. I'm just going to say for me, just to make it nice and easy for us today. It's going to bring me to a file browser window where it's going to look for any zips. There is my meeting capture zip file. We're going to upload that file. And I'm going to click Add. Easy peasy, right? Super breezy. I click Add, and now I've got this over here. Now I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to pin it because I always want that on my left-hand side. It's going to ask to use a few functionalities within the Teams context. And there we go. We're ready to go. And if everything works the way it should have with our app template, I don't have any meetings on my calendar right now, but let's throw on a meeting for later today. Next is test meeting. And we're going to invite who do we want to invite to this one? I don't even remember any of the names of the people in my my demo environment. There's Alex Wilbur. Let's invite Alex. And let's send it. If I go back to this, with any luck, it should show us our upcoming meeting. Might take a little bit more time than that, and that's okay. There's our meeting coming up. I click that, I click start meeting. What's it going to do here? It's going to tell me how my meeting works. I can now start to capture all of the information in this meeting that I potentially need to. It's going to tell me who's in the meeting. We're going to capture notes, planner tasks, the meeting details. I save this off and it'll save it to OneNote. Really cool way to use this. Now, this is just a great example of how PowerApps can go into Teams and start to enhance what we can do in Teams. But it doesn't just have to be about meetings. Teams is way more than that and anything you want it to be. So let's switch contexts here and show how Teams and Power Automate can work together. We will come back to PowerApps. There's some really cool stuff in there still yet to explore. Now, I want to talk about Power Automate, but what do I want to do with Power Automate? I'm going to switch to a different tenant here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my Office 365 apps and open up Power Automate. If you haven't been there before, you should totally check it out. It's got so many amazing things for you to try out in Power Automate, whether it's improving your daily workflows or creating business processes to improve your whole business. Now, I'm going to go to my flows. Give it a moment to load here. And I'm going to say I want to create a new flow. Yeah, we can ignore that. That's some old stuff that I like to test all the time in this environment. And I'm going to say that I want this to be based on a schedule. You know what, actually, today let's just do an automated flow. I want to show you how we can really make this an easy to use solution. In fact, I want to show you something on the back end. I've created a list in Microsoft SharePoint here called Training Tracker. I want this to be a quick, easy way for us to track who has done their completed trainings. I've got a due date, assigned to, and a title. You might have way more information than that, but let's go ahead and create a new item in here. So let's say that we have an item called compliance training. And the due date for this was yesterday. And it was assigned to Dr. Sally. I'm going to save that there. Now, if you've seen our new Microsoft List platform, which I can't show you yet today, but it's coming out in the next few months, we could use Microsoft List for this and it'd be super cool. But for now, let's just look at it like this. We've got compliance training, due date, assigned to Dr. Sally. Let's go back to our flow. Now I'm going to say that this is a flow that we're going to tell it when to run. On a long-term basis, I would want this to run once a day. But so that we can try it out right now, actually, you know what? Let's do it that way. Let's say scheduled. I want this to run every day, starting tomorrow. And I'm going to call this training compliance. Let's go ahead and create it. So we have a trigger action. Let's start by adding some additional pieces in here. Now, it would probably be helpful if I told you my goal here. I want us to have a flow that automatically goes through our training dashboard, our specific compliance training, and shows us, or not shows us, but it takes action when somebody's overdue on their training. Okay, so let's start to build this out together. So it checks every day. We already have that set up, runs every day. What do we want it to do next? I need it to go look at the items in our SharePoint list. So I'm going to say SharePoint. Oh God, look at all those connectors. We'll say SharePoint and we'll scroll down to get items. Now I will give it the site that I'm using here. I'm using my Learning Pathways site, which you haven't seen. If you haven't seen Learning Pathways, go check it out. And I want to get the training tracker. So that's going to get all of the items from training tracker, which is the site, which is, excuse me, the list that we're in here. Next thing is I want it for each item to go assess if we're past the due date. So I want to add in a control called a condition. And I want to say if the due date, and you can see it automatically put it in apply to each group because we're going to need to check every item against this. So if the due date is less than, the date is smaller before, I guess you could say, then we'll put in an expression. We'll scroll down to our date functions. UTC now, which gets today's date. It'll roughly work out. Yeah, you could argue there's some time zone conversions in there, but you know what, man, let's make this simple for now. If we are past our due date, that ain't good. What do I need to do? I need to send something to my end user. So let's click on Microsoft Teams. I want to send a message to them as the Flowbot. If you've never used Flowbot before, it's super cool. I want to send them a message saying overdue training with the name of the training in there. So let's put in our title field from SharePoint. For the recipient, that's going to be our assigned to email. And the message is, you are overdue on your, again, let's add in the word title, training. It was due. And now I want to add an expression. Actually, you know what? Let's go up here and add in another item. This is my favorite thing about Flow. I get to just pop around all the time. There's a great thing called convert time zone. We're going to take the SharePoint time that's put in there. So due date. And I'm going to say it was stored in there in UTC, which oftentimes it is. And I'm in Central Time in the US, so that's what time I want it to display in. And here's what I want it to look like. I want to say that it was due on that date. Perfect. Now let's put that up there, or that down there. Same thing. And it's now you're overdue on your blog training. It was due at the converted time. Please select an action, avoid compliance issues. And we give them two options. I'm going to say option 1 is I will take, sorry, browser issues. Demos are nothing if not buggy. I will take the training today. Go away. Or please give me another week. Okay, so we've got those two options that are going to be presented to the user. Fantastic. Let's add in an action here and add in a control. So we're going to add another condition in here, and we're going to take the results that came from the user. So post a choice of options as the Flowbot to the user and say selected option. If the selected option is equal to please give me another week, we'll take an action. And if not, we won't take an action. So if they're asking for another week, what do we do next? We want to start an approvals process. To create an approval, and I'm only going to ask one person to approve or reject this. So the first to respond. Now I could ask for the manager or something like that, but I'm just going to say that the assigned to person training delay. We're going to assign this just to one specific person right now. Nice and easy for us, but again, we could assign it to the manager of the user. The details, we can put all sorts of markdown items in that as well. Let's not waste our time with putting all the details in there. For now, we're just going to keep it like this. Then, based on the approval, we're going to do one last thing. So one more control, another condition. Based on the approval, the outcome, if it is equal to, I believe it is approved, then we do two things. First of all, I'm going to take that SharePoint item and we're going to update it. So let's grab our list, our SharePoint site and our list again. Back in our Learning Pathways site, back in the training tracker, we're going to put in the ID from our original get items, or excuse me, our current item. In the title, we're going to keep it the same title. So back in our current item, we're going to choose a title. We're going to keep the assigned to the same. But we're going to extend the due date. So what am I going to do for that? I'm going to say, okay, 7 days from now. How do I do that? I want to go back to our date functions. I'm going to add days to UTC now. And add 7 days. So we're adding one more week. If the approver said no, then we are going to go ahead and post one more message to the end user. Let's choose Teams again. We are going to post a message as the Flowbot to the user again, saying, request denied. Take your training now. And it's going to go again to the same person, assigned to email. Now I could do all sorts of other stuff in here to build this out a little bit further. But for now, let's take this and run with it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to save this flow. And I'm going to start by testing it. I want to perform the trigger action. There is no trigger action. It just performs on its own. And we'll run the flow. Now, we are going to see where the flow will fail, because if there's anything I've learned from developing anything, whether it's in our low-code solutions or C#, it'll fail somewhere. I'm sure I had a typo at some point, somewhere, somehow. But before we can see it in here, it's running through the loop. So what it should be doing is it should be sending a flow message to one of my users. Let's open up that user. Let's go to chat. Flo sent me a card. Interesting. Let's take a look at that. I have overdue training. Oh no. You know what? I want another week. Please give me another week. I can enter some comments there. I can submit them, whatever. That's not my problem anymore. Now what should happen is in my other user that I'm signed in with right now, let's go back to Teams. We'll let that load there. This user, I should open up the Flow application in Teams. If you haven't checked this out yet, give it a shot. Let me go to more apps. It should show in there somewhere. I'm going to open that app. And I can pin it to the left-hand side if I want to, but I can see I probably, hopefully, if it didn't fail, have a new approval to take care of. Dr. Sally has a training delay. Am I going to let her do it or not? Yeah, let's give her the time. I'm going to approve it. And then, in theory, we should see this date in a few moments, add another week. Or the flow might fail. Yeah, it failed. But you know what? That's probably some sort of logic that I put in there at the very end of the game of, okay, update item, it didn't like, it didn't like something specific about that. But the point of today is not to troubleshoot a flow together. The point of today is to show you some of the cool stuff we can do. So that's just one example of something like a training tracker, how we can use something as simple as the Flowbot to use Teams for approvals, delays, messages, notifications, all of that stuff together. Let's take it to a new level though. I'm not going to build this one with you right now. You're welcome to do it on your own, especially if you're in the healthcare industry, but there's this really cool thing that we built called virtual rounding. So let's go into my my user again. So you might have even seen this as I was in Teams. I've got a few applications on the left-hand side, but this one called virtual rounding is actually a Power App. It's going to load like any other Power App will, but this actually shows me as a healthcare provider a list of patient rooms that I can go visit. There's actually these tablets sitting in patient rooms that are sitting in Teams meetings waiting for me to pop in. I can click on one of these and join one of those meetings using the Teams interface. So it's a way, instead of me being invited to 17 plus meetings and having to sort through, okay, here's all the patients that I might have to take care of. I can go look for the patient, click join room. I'm on a web browser, so this is a little wonky instead of the way Teams normally would work. It'll bring me into the meeting. And I'm able to join a meeting and visit with my patient right then and there. Now, again, it's a really healthcare specific example, but by bringing Teams and that app context right in there, we can do some pretty cool things. Let's take a look at some other examples. So we've shown PowerApps a couple times. We've talked about Flow a couple times. Let's talk about a few more things that we're seeing happening over time. So in my Flow application in Microsoft Teams, you'll note that I'm actually able to create flows from here. And these flows that I'm able to create them from templates, and even it will give me suggested templates that are related to Microsoft Teams for me. So going back into Flow, I just want to go ahead and let's create a new flow, and I can show you some of the cool things that we can do automated from Microsoft Teams. So let's search for Teams as a trigger. I can simply do one of these new three things. When I'm mentioned in the channel, when a new team member is added, or when a new channel message is added. So I can take an action every time a channel message is added. Think of the cool things we can do there. We can send it to Azure to do some language analytics to see if the sentiment is negative or positive and put that into a dashboard. When a new team member is added, what could we do there? How about a welcome email? So I'm going to create this one right now. It's going to ask for a team ID, but I'm going to click the drop down because I'd rather just put in the team name and it'll add that for me. New team members added. Now I can do an action. And let's choose Microsoft Teams again. And let's look at the actions that we can do in Teams. There are a whole ton of actions that we can do in Teams. Now, a lot of these are based on the Microsoft Shifts application, about half of them almost. We're not going to focus on those ones today, but we can see all sorts of other things we can do. We used a few like the flow bot just earlier, but instead I want to post a message into a team. So let's go ahead and look at our options here. And let's post an adaptive card, my very own adaptive card, into a channel. So first of all, we need to post it to the Max's team again. I want to put it into the general channel. Please welcome to the team. So this is now built. So new team member is added. So let's go into my team. Let's add a member. Add Dr. Sohail. We'll add Dr. Sohail. We'll hit close. I'm going to go back to Flow. And I want to see my flow. I want to see that thing run. And this might be a sit and wait kind of a thing while we wait for this to really kick into gear. We've got about 8 minutes left together, and I want to show you guys a few last things of how we can use Teams and Power Platform together. Back in my other lovely window, I wanted to talk to you guys. Unfortunately, I don't have slides to go with these because these are such new announcements from Microsoft Build, but a few things. One of them is around Power Virtual Agents, which is a way for you to build a bot, literally no code at all. With this, you're going to be able to build your own bot that actually is able to interact with users or yourself in Teams and answer questions, whether it's frequently asked questions or from a dictionary or another web source. And you really should check out the bot template that's available there. The next thing is about adding to Teams. We went through this together where we downloaded the zip file and re-uploaded it into Teams. And the last one, which we also went through together, is the ability to create from a template within Flow within Teams. Now, less news, but more cool stuff is, oh, I think I might have closed it even. Oh, did not. Is this awesome page called App Templates for Teams. Now, a lot of these apps are going to be non-Power Platform related to their own thing that Microsoft built and is putting out there for you to actually use. But some of them, like the FactBot, is actually built on virtual agents. Another one that is brand new is this Request a Team app. I can't tell you the amount of times I talk with people that are saying, I want an app that was let me request a team instead of just letting my users create teams on their own. Now, there's a high value to letting users create teams on their own, but this new app lets users put in their information and request an app. So let's click Get It on GitHub, and I'll show you how you can deploy something like this. First of all, we walk through the entire process of how users can request teams, enter information. It goes through a flow approval process, and then it actually hits the back end of the Microsoft Graph API to create the team. Now, this is not Microsoft owned source code. We don't We don't put warranty behind it, but we'd love for you to test it out. So I click here, I go in deployment guide, and it walks you through every single thing you need to do and how you can set everything up, how you can create the groups that are required for it. Now, I just want to show you what the app looks like. If I download this zip file here, there's a whole bunch of prerequisite steps that we are completely skipping right now. But just again, to show you today, I go back into my PowerApps. This tenant will work great. I can go to my apps, and there's this great import Canvas app button. I click that, upload an app. We'll upload or request a team app. It takes a few seconds, maybe minutes to upload an app. And when we upload an app or a flow, it's always going to ask us whether we want to create them as new, or and help us create connections. So I already have a SharePoint connection here. I'm going to select that one, and we're going to import this. Now we go to open the app, and we'll be able to start customizing it and adding it to teams. This will take a couple hours to actually get an app like this up and running, but it's super cool, the stuff that you can do. And not only does this add productivity, but it actually allows you to start utilizing Microsoft Teams and PowerApps to really deeply integrate, because Teams will go to PowerApps to send you to request a team, which will go back to Teams to create the teams, and all around in circles. Now, we have a couple minutes left, and I want to take that time for questions and just walk through the last few pieces together. There's an awesome resource called the Teams PowerApps white paper that talks all about PowerApps and Teams together and the cool things you can do. Please check that out at aka.ms/Teams PowerApps white paper. Few other business items for you. I believe we're close to the end of the time for you to do the raffle, but if you haven't already, please visit our vendor sessions and watch the videos, submit answers, and you could win a Oculus Quest all-in-one device. Additionally, please consider donating in these troubled times to United Way or International Medical Corps. We are donating some of our sponsor funds to there as well. I'm going to appreciate the additional support. Finally, thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat here. If you want to provide any feedback about my session here or the whole event, please do that at the bit.ly links that you can see on your screen or using the QR codes. And again, thank you so much for joining today. I'll give you guys another 30 seconds to sort of grab these, and then I'm going to put up my contact information for you to get in touch with me if you have any questions. All right, well, thanks for joining. There's my email address and my Twitter handle. Would love to get to talk with you, learn about what you're looking to do, help you out in any way possible. I'll stick around here for a few more minutes for any questions, and thanks again.